Multiple coaches here have won their conference, have moved on and won championships here, have been to the bowl, and that's become the standard. And without Coach Hodgson's success here, I wouldn't be here. Him and his staff laid the foundation of success that allowed me to be here, that I'm fortunate enough to get an opportunity to build on.
The Ryan Pannone era at Arkansas State has begun. But before we talk about the new Red Wolf in charge, I've got to introduce a good friend of mine. You know who it is, my guy, Mike Harley, a sports writer for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, joining us here in studio to recap the men's basketball season that just passed for Arkansas State. Mike, thank you so much for getting dressed and taking a shower and coming to the studio with us.
Yeah, broke out the kayak, made it down here. So, you know, happy to be here always.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love who you did your hair. Who did it this time?
Oh, I got my girl in North Little Rock that hooks me up. So
okay,
you know, she takes care of me. You know, so coming on the show, I gotta look right coming on the show. So,
gotta look sharp, gotta look crisp, gotta look clean. Yep. Okay. Now, before we talk about A-State's future, Mike, we have to talk about the past and the season that was. The Red Wolves finished with their most wins in a season with 25, made it to their second straight Sun Belt title game, but for the second straight year, they failed to win and make the big dance for the first time since 1999. Mike, what are your thoughts on the men's season that they had?
Well, obviously with the 25 wins program record, so that was huge. But you know, I kind of agree with what you were saying. You know, really the ultimate goal is to get to the NCAA tournament, and once again they fell short in the Sun Belt Championship. You know, all things considered, you know, like I said, you were hoping to, you know, go from 20 wins to 25 wins and continue to build upon that. But then with Hodgson quickly exiting to South Florida, obviously it's a complete reset in Jonesboro. But yeah, you would say the 24-25 campaign, you would have to say it was a success with a program record in wins.
Yeah, you just would love to have seen this team compete, you know, in the big dance in March Madness, man. After A-State's second round NIT loss at North Texas, Ryan Pannone, as you just mentioned, chucked up the deuces like Chris Brown and took a reported 6-year deal to be the new head coach for South Florida. Mike, I'll allow you to talk about some of his accomplishments that he did over the last 2 seasons, but I really would have loved to see Hodgson at least get them into the tournament. But, you know, when the money's on the table and the money's right in front of you, you kind of can't say no to it.
And especially with a 37-year-old up-and-comer in the business,
yeah,
you know, it kind of comes with the territory. There, you know, he kind of, this was his first head job, and so, you know, he's on to the next one. And honestly, you know, obviously, as you mentioned, financially makes sense for him as he, you know, grows in the business. But, you know, I wouldn't be surprised in another 2 or 3 years if South Florida's kind of in the same position that Arkansas State is, because that's just kind of the way of business in Division I sports these days.
Yeah, 45-28 record in 2 seasons at Arkansas State. The winningest head coach that they've had in that time span at Arkansas State, and his success gave way to where we are today. Another Alabama assistant from the Nate Oates tree, A-State's 18th head men's basketball coach, Ryan Pannone. He comes highly recommended. He was basically the Crimson Tide's offensive coordinator the last 2 seasons. Mike, what did you think of the hire, and what are some of the takeaways that you got from his introductory press conference on Friday?
Well, an interesting hire. I mean, you know, ironically coming from Alabama, the same place that Hodgson came from, you know, they grabbed another assistant from that Alabama staff. So, you know, I don't know, that's neither here nor there. Another young guy. So, you know, I guess for me, as the cynic I am, the first thought that comes to my mind is always, is this guy going to be gone in another 2 years as well?
Hopefully not.
But I mean, you know, by all accounts, you know, highly recommended coach, only 40 years old, but has been a coach for 23 years. So vast experience. He's been all over the world, China, Israel, the G League. He's been kind of all over. So his resume really, you know, shows that he's probably deserving of this opportunity to lead a program. So, you know, I think it's an exciting hire. Obviously, there was a huge turnout for the press conference yesterday. And he said all the right things. You've got to say he won the press conference, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where it all starts. But interesting hire, and, you know, it's going to be completely different. You know, obviously he comes from the same tree, but a lot different coaching style than what we have seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and something that he made a mention of was that in terms of how he wants his roster next season was he wants it to have a more international feel. As you just said, he's been overseas for a number of years in his career. He wants to bring more international players to the Scarlet and Black. So it'll be an interesting look for them next season if that's the direction he decides to go in. Pannone has got some work to do, though. It's portal combat right now, the transfer portal, Mike. One of the players he's trying to bring bring back from last year is Berrian. Ford is in the portal right now, but he's still hanging around in that Jonesboro area, as we see on Twitter. He was actually at Pannone's presser on Friday. What are the chances he returns for his senior year?
Well, the fact that he was in attendance, you got to say that's got to be a good sign. Obviously he has opened up his recruitment, so we don't know, but yeah, I think him and maybe one or two other guys might be all that's coming back. So, it's going to be a brand new roster next year. You would love to see, Ford come back if possible, but either way, whether he comes back or not, it's going to be a completely new look team next year. And as you mentioned, with his plans to recruit internationally, it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I know he's already got a couple junior college guys he's after as well, so it'll be interesting to see kind of what he does with it, and that international strategy. Just because the way the transfer portal is now, that could be a strategy that you want. Some coaches have used it to retain players better because it's more of there's more of an investment when you're coming from another country than if you're just a guy jumping from school to school just looking for the highest bidder. So I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but like I said, it should be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ford's return would definitely bring familiarity, you would say, and a veteran to help Pannone get started there in Jonesboro. You know who doesn't have that problem, Mike? Destiny Rogers. The reigning Sun Belt champs are bringing back 5 key contributors from their historic run this past season. Winter Rogers, Chrislyn Rose, Zion Shannon, Bella Wary, and Mimi McAllister announced that they are all running it back next year. How big is that for Rogers and next season's squad?
Well, I think it's huge just because you got, they play 10 players, so you got half your roster that was on the floor coming back at least, if not a few more. I know they've been hit a little bit with graduation, but to have those 5 back and to be able to build around them, obviously you got to think she's also going to try to utilize the portal and bring in, some other players to supplement the losses through graduation. But yeah, just to have those 5 names that were all 5, massive contributors to their success in the conference season. And like I said, and all pretty much guards. So, like I said, you got ball handlers in there and leaders. So, like I said, obviously it's a great start. A long way to go, as with every program. It's a long off season, but coming off the success they had this last year, I think it's a good sign.
Yeah, no, and I absolutely love Chrislyn Rose's game. She was fun to watch this year, and hopefully I get a chance to actually see her in person ball out next year for the Red Wolves. All right, well, that wraps up A-State basketball coverage until next season. Mike and I will keep you informed of any kind of transfer portal news in the coming weeks. Now we turn our focus to spring football, Mike, with the Red Wolves spring game happening in 20 days. Mike, it's always great having you, brother.
Yes, sir, Josh. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother. We'll wrap up the show after these messages.